What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So if I were to look at my comments, I would have to say that the vast majority of people who are commenting are asking, why doesn't Congress do something? Why don't they actually vote on something? And I agree 100%. When it comes to these proposals, I let you guys know all the proposals that are out there. You start to ask yourself, why are they not voting on this stuff? Why are they just putting out proposals? And so I'm going to show you a clip today. This is Representative Larson. And if you don't know, Representative Larson has the Social Security 2100 Act. That 2100 Act has an increase for Social Security. Also, it has some other benefits for people currently receiving Social Security. So why haven't they voted on this yet? Representative Larson, in this video, he's going to explain some of the situations, some of the challenges that we see when it comes to Social Security, and he's going to call on Congress to vote. And when it comes to Social Security, we haven't seen a politician come out and say we need to vote on something. We need to vote on an increase for Social Security. Now, we have seen Senator Bernie Sanders actually call on Congress to act as well, but Representative Larson, he has a bill that can actually pass if they can get a little bit of support from the Republicans. So let's go ahead. I'm going to play this clip, but before I do, if you guys can do me a favor, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Threads, you can at the TEC Show Live. So at the very end of this video, we're going to talk about this. When it comes to the politicians actually voting on something, I have something to say about this because I think that there are passed up opportunities that we're seeing. We're seeing different proposals come out and nothing happened to them. So I'm going to give you my opinion on that, but we're going to watch this clip first. This is going to be Representative Larson, and Representative Larson is talking in front of the AFL-CIO, and he's talking about Social Security reform. He's talking about his proposal. This is during the anniversary of Social Security. 88 years Social Security has been in place and never missed a payment. So here we go. Let's play this.
Well, thank you, Betty. You talk about warriors. What an honor and how proud we all were to have Betty Marafino in Washington, D.C. testifying on behalf of Social Security. And what a great job she has done, along with SEIU, CSEA, the AFL-CIO. You guys have been spectacular. And we're in a fight, a real fight. And it's time to take the gloves off, because that's the kind of fight that we're in. And you know, Mike and Ed in their remarks acknowledge, but we just can't simply roll out the same issue over and over again and never have a vote. There's nobody better at making sure that they hold people accountable than the AFL-CIO. And when you have a warrior like Dick Blumenthal, we were remarking earlier, I don't know how he does it, but virtually, Rich Keogh does, but I don't know how he does it. He's virtually everywhere at an event. I always feel embarrassed because he'd say to me, what are you doing next? I said, well, I've got this other. He says, yeah, I got to be in 6 places. And then it turns out he's in all 6 of them, and you wonder how he did it. But it's not just that he's there for us, but he's a fighter. You know that from his record. I was blessed to serve with him in the Connecticut State Senate, to work with him when he was Attorney General, and now to observe his record and his work in the United States Senate. He said he's a co-pilot. He's the commander-in-chief up in the Senate over there in terms of landing Social Security. And as Betty pointed out, this is why it's so important. Just a couple of issues. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but as the Sisters of Notre Dame would say, it's the choir that leads the singing. And, you know, with 10,000 baby boomers a day becoming eligible for Social Security, 10,000 a day, by the end of next year, we're currently close to 67 million Social Security recipients. We'll be over 70 million Americans relying on, as Dick pointed out, the nation's #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and the #1 anti-poverty program for children, until we formalize the child tax credit, which has to be done as well. But right now, as we speak, it is Social Security. It is also, and don't take any guff on this, it's the nation's most successful program, and it's the most efficiently run program. Social Security has what the insurance industry calls a 99% loss ratio. What does that mean? That means they operate all of Social Security, which dispenses pension benefits, disability benefits, spousal and dependent coverage, with under 1% administrative costs. You cannot find a private sector that does this. You can't find another governmental agency that does this. It is the nation's #1 program that's paid for, and as Dick pointed out, it is not an entitlement, it's an earned benefit. It's an insurance program that works on behalf of people. And Americans across the board, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, will gladly, poll after poll after poll demonstrates, pay more. Because they know this is a benefit that works. So we don't have to go back to 1935 or the Great Depression. We only have to go back to 2008 and 2009. People saw then, when their 401k became a 101k, Social Security never missed a payment. Not a disability payment, not a spousal, dependent, or pension payment. Why? Because as President Biden has said, it's a sacred trust between the American people and their government. That's why this program is so important, and that's why Congress needs to vote. How difficult is that? And everyone goes through these arguments and wrings their hands, etc., about, oh, I don't know, we got to do this, do that. As soon as you hear anyone say we need to study Social Security, you got to just give it a big eye roll. Really? Is there any program that's been thoroughly researched and documented, governmental program, other than Social Security? No. So what's lacking here? Congress has not voted to enhance Social Security in more than 52 years. Congress hasn't voted on Social Security in more than 30 years. In '83, when they voted on it, they voted to raise the age. And they were saying then, too, well, you know, people are living longer, so we ought to raise the age. What they weren't saying is this. For every year you raise the age, that's a 7% cut in benefits. Currently, our brilliant leaders on the Republican side say we should raise it to age 70. And actually, as Dick pointed out, propose this. That's a 21% across the board cut. So how do you figure? You're living longer, so if you're living longer, you ought to be living on less?
Okay, so he said some key things there I want to talk about a little bit, and then we'll get back into the video. But he was talking about 10,000 new people every day are eligible for Social Security. And so what does that mean? That means more and more people are collecting Social Security now, and so we need to really start focusing on some type of reform because we know what's going to happen in 10 years. We know that we'll see a cut in 10 years if they don't do anything, and that's why they need to act, and that's why he's calling on Congress to vote. He also talked about raising of the full retirement age. Now, this is simple, and I've been saying this for a very long time. When it comes to raising the full retirement age, that is a cut. And politicians don't want to really put that out there because no politician wants to say that they're cutting Social Security. But if you want to raise that full retirement age, you're cutting Social Security. And he is saying that it's by about 21% if you raise it up to age 70. And so we really need to contact our lawmakers and let them know if they support raising the full retirement age, they are supporting cutting Social Security. Because if they know that we know, because they already know this, let's face it, they know that if they raise the full retirement age, it will be a cut to Social Security, but it doesn't sound like a cut because all you're saying is we're going to raise the full retirement age just like we did before. We did this back in 1983. We need to do it again or we're going to have major cuts in Social Security. That's what they're going to say. However, if they're raising the full retirement age to 70, that's a 21% cut. So we're either looking at a 23% cut if they do nothing or a 21% cut if they raise the full retirement age. And so those cuts are about the same. So something else needs to be done. They can't raise the full retirement age. They're going to need to bring in more revenue. And that's the reality. Let's go ahead and get back. Here we go.
In God's name, is that going to work? And yet the glaring thing that we see, that Betty has pointed out, I mean, first of all, WEP and GPO, as President Biden has said, has got to be repealed. And it's got to be paid for. And we have the wherewithal to do it. As Dick pointed out, most people don't realize currently at $167,000, you're not paying more into Social Security. Now that will rise every year, but still, people making more than $167,000 stop paying. So Bill Gates stops paying into Social Security on January 2nd. For people over $400,000, as the president has advocated, now that amounts to 0.6% of the nation. We need to lift that cap on them and have them pay the same thing that your everyday worker would pay into the system. And what does that do? That allows us to extend the benefits and to expand benefits and extend the solvency of Social Security. Isn't that the goal? Isn't that what we want to do? Imagine things have changed a little since 1971 when Richard Nixon was president, and that's the last time Social Security was enhanced. Come on. And what does it require? This is nothing that the president can do through executive order. It's nothing that the Supreme Court is going to adjudicate. It takes Congress. And what does Congress have to do? Vote. If the Republicans have a better plan, have them put it out there. They claim they do. But everybody ought to know what's in the plan. Every time they talk about it, they talk about cuts. Social Security doesn't need to be cut. It needs to be expanded. As Betty was pointing out before as well, more than 40% of Americans, the only security, the only pension they have is Social Security. 5 million of your fellow Americans get below poverty level checks from the government on Social Security because Congress has enacted. There hasn't been an enhancement in 52 years, which is why we call for an across-the-board increase. People who retired and continue to work shouldn't get taxed on their Social Security. 23 million people will get their tax forgiven under our program. Spouses, and especially widowers, will be taken care of. We'll repeal WEP and GPO and pay for it so it doesn't harm the trust fund at all, but will only further enhance it. We extend the solvency of the program, and we also expand the benefit and recognize that Congress has got to continue to work on it. Are there efficiencies that we can find going forward? Of course there are, but not by way of cutting people's benefits. We need to lift up people so that nobody who works in the United States of America and pays into the #1 insurance program gets a below poverty level check from their government. The new floor for Social Security will be 125% of poverty, making sure that that will never happen again and will never return to poorhouses. So we're in this fight. We're in it together. We couldn't have a stronger and better ally than labor. demonstrated that over the years as well. But as I said, it's time to take the gloves off. And by that I mean, it's time to call on Congress to vote. There's no more excuses as to why we're not voting on a bill on both sides. No excuse. Republicans, you got a better bill in the House, put it up there. Because we have this process in Congress called the amendment process. We actually have a process also, thankfully, we have a leader like Dick Blumenthal in the Senate who's been arguing vociferously to make sure that we get rid of the cloture vote and have a vote so Mitch McConnell can't stop a vote from going forward on Social Security. Most people don't even know this or recognize this. But Congress needs to vote and act. And the programs that are out there, whether it's Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, or whether it's Sherrod Brown, there's a number of good ideas out there, but what it needs is, it's got to get out of the stage of talking about it and getting to the point of voting on it. Why? So the American people know exactly where you stand. That's something that we've received from our bill, from members of Congress, and from more than over 350 different agencies. It's the most comprehensive plan out there. It embraces President Biden's approach to Social Security. Now, I call it an insurance benefit, but President Biden has been very clear. No one above $400,000 during his first term will be impacted by any program he proposes. And he remains true to that with this proposal as well. The only revenue enhancements, two areas. One, from closing a loophole in FICA that many wealthy people, the 10% or probably the 0.6% that Dick was talking about before, use to not have to pay FICA taxes. And then to make sure that everybody over $400,000 is contributing what a guy $50,000 will be contributing to the Social Security plan. We're going to get this done, but we can't get it done without your help. And your help, where it is required, is to say, not just say, hey, we want you to support Social Security or we support this plan. We want a vote. And even if the Republicans have a plan, like I said, there's something called an amendment process. They got a plan they don't want to put forward, Social Security 2100, put forward your plan. We'll amend it. We'll get a vote. But let's have a vote so the American people know where Congress stands on this issue. And when you do that, we're going to get that very bipartisan support that everybody has talked about. Because, I forget who said it, whether it was Mike or Ed, you know, this is about your family members, your brothers, your sisters, aunts and uncles. This is about the people you go to church with. This is about your neighbors. This is about community. It's about everything that labor represents. And that's why we need your help in advocacy. Thank you. Thank you so much for this huge star, Betty Marafino, that you sent to us. With that, I guess we'll take questions or whatever.
Okay, so there was Representative Larson talking about Social Security 2100 Act, and he was just talking about, in general, a Social Security reform bill. Bring one to the floor is what he's saying. So he has his plan. You know, Senator Bernie Sanders has a plan, the raise, the $2,400 raise for Social Security. Some senators are trying to put together a bill, this nonpartisan bill. There are a lot of different plans out there. There are a lot of different proposals out there, but they're not voting on anything. And I know that's the most frustrating part. When I put these videos out, you guys let me know that that's the most frustrating part. The fact that we have all these proposals, but no vote. Now, he talked about something when it comes to the Senate, this cloture vote. And the reason why that's a problem is because you need 60 votes in this cloture vote in order to get to the vote on Social Security. And so it can easily be struck down because right now you need some Republicans to vote in a cloture vote in order to get to a Social Security reform vote. And so Senator Blumenthal is trying to get rid of this cloture vote. So just take that out. You don't need it. If you want to vote on a bill, vote on a bill. If you want to amend the bill, you can amend the bill. You have an amendment process. So you don't need this in between, this cloture vote. It doesn't make any sense. It just holds things up. And that's why the American people are losing faith in our process, because they're looking at this and when they see all these different proposals that are out there and they see nothing happening, they're wondering, well, why is nothing happening? It's because if one party wants to hold it up in the Senate, they can do it through the cloture vote. And so that's what's going on when it comes to that. Now, I always said, even if it's a cloture vote to move forward with voting on Social Security reform, you should still bring that to the floor. And so if Leader Schumer brings this cloture vote when it comes to Social Security reform, bring that to the floor and let it get struck down. And while it's getting struck down, you explain to the American people that we're going to see a cut of 23 to 25% if nothing is done, but we're trying to move something through. We're trying to vote on this today, but we're getting pushback from the other side. If that's the way that you have to do it, that's the way that you have to do it, because the American people need to know who supports Social Security reform and who is opposed to Social Security reform, who supports an increase for Social Security and who's opposed to an increase to Social Security, who supports cuts for Social Security like raising the full retirement age, and who doesn't support raising the full retirement age. We need to have people on record, and I've been saying this for a while. We need to know what these politicians think about Social Security reform and what they want to do when it comes to Social Security reform, because you're going to hear a lot of talk. You're going to hear a lot of talk, these politicians saying, we want to protect Social Security. We want to protect Social Security. Okay, what exactly does that mean? How are you going to protect Social Security? Are you going to protect it by cutting it now? That way you don't have to make major cuts in the future? Or are you going to bring in more revenue, like raising the payroll tax or raising the cap so the wealthy pay a little bit more? Are you how are you going to protect Social Security? That's what I really want to know, because you can have a politician say, you know what, it's not good. Social Security 2100 Act is not good. Senator Bernie Sanders' plan, a raise of $2,400 for Social Security, that's not good. Well, what's the alternative? What are you bringing to the floor? What are you bringing to the table? And so that's what we need to find out. And so I'm hoping that in September, we will actually see some politicians come forward. We'll see Leader Schumer bring something to the floor. Even if it's only the cloture vote, bring it to the floor and let the cloture vote get struck down and run on that. Say, look, we want to do something, but they're not doing anything. They're not trying to help us. And maybe, just maybe, if you bring that cloture vote to the floor and they strike it down, then you're going to get some Republicans that are going to come on board and say, you know what? We need to reform Social Security. So this nonpartisan group of senators right now that have been talking about putting a proposal together for the last 5 months, 6 months, they haven't done anything. They haven't put anything to paper. So maybe if there was a cloture vote and it was struck down and it was related to Social Security, it's going to push them to say, hey, we need to do something, because we can't just strike down a proposal for Social Security reform without coming up with a different idea that we can at least get through Congress. So we're going to have to see where this all goes. I want to know what you guys think about this. I think it's great that you have Representative Larson out there continuing to fight and calling for a vote. I think this is good. We don't have a lot of politicians that will do this, so I think this is a step in the right direction. But we also need to have buy-in from other lawmakers, and we need to have those lawmakers calling for a vote as well. So let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.